by accessing that baccalaureate degree as quickly as possible. Now, here I do have some experience. Florida is set up a bit differently than we are here in that regard, and this is not something I did. This is something that's years old in the state of Florida. Each course that is offered in higher ed, that's community college and universities, has a common course number associated with it. That's terminology these guys are aware of. It's a little down in the weeds, but what it ends up meaning is that an English course at the community college system in Florida is given the same weight and credit as an English course at one of our universities. So when a student completes their Associate of Arts degree in Florida, they're by law guaranteed a slot then in one of our state universities. And they're also guaranteed that if they successfully completed a range of general education courses, they would not be required to retake them when they go to the state university. So it's not only cost effective for the student who can do their lower division coursework at the community college and finish their baccalaureate at the university, it's effective for access purposes, because many of our students don't just go to a community college because they've chosen it, they go to it because they have to, for job reasons, for geographic location reasons, whatever it happens to be. So we have to make that transition more seamless, and I believe in so doing, we might have an impact on some of our enrollment issues that we're facing around the state. It won't be a plug to that issue, but I also believe we can better adapt to it. So there's just a couple of ideas on that one. The other issue was the issue of the governor and the General Assembly. Guys, you have not cornered the market on the issue of governors and General Assembly members who, in the throes of this recession, are looking at the issue of funding issues of children and students and K-12 education and higher education differently than they did in the past. I think it's far less politics than it is the issue of the recession. And the recession is also something that is to a degree out of our control. So, how do you best approach the General Assembly and the governor? You do it by addressing the issues I just talked about. And you do it in unified fashion. And you convince them that the bang for the buck that they will receive by funding their system of higher education in the state of Florida is inescapable. It's not gray, it's not difficult to understand. It is clear and compelling that by funding our universities, they are funding the economic development future of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We'll always disagree on how much money we should ask for in order to accommodate that. What we shouldn't disagree on is the ask itself and how that money will be utilized and how the return on investment will be proven to guarantee that a dollar in will provide a dollar's worth of something better for the Commonwealth by better funding higher education to support our students. You know, in Florida we have the 41st lowest tuition rate in state in the United States of America. And we still debate every year on what tuition should look like. And so it is not an issue that is only kept within the Commonwealth. This is going on all over the country. And it shouldn't be easy to just go in and say, give us more money. We should have to lay on the table who we are, and what we propose to do, and how we propose to evidence that it was successful at the end of the day when we do ask in unified fashion for assistance from the General Assembly and from the government.
Do you know where Pennsylvania ranks? You said Florida's 41st lowest in tuition. Do you know where Pennsylvania ranks?
Generally speaking, as a system, I am told, we are at about the national average in Pennsylvania. I'm talking now about tuition. So when I say we're 41st in Florida, I'm told we're at about the national average, give or take. I won't say plug general.
Pennsylvania is at the national average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ron Wilshire, Leader Vindicator. With the wave of retrenchments and anticipated retrenchments not taking place, where do you see the system standing in terms of future retrenchments? Is this a one-time thing, or is it going to be an every year event?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say this. If retrenchment were only going to be a one-time event, it wouldn't be in the collective bargaining agreement. It was put in there years ago so that if and when the need ever arose, once or more, that there would be process in place to help determine how it will be handled. Whether or not it will be done in the future, quite honestly, and I really mean that, quite honestly, may be impacted by some issues out of our control. Out of our control by virtue of the fact that retrenchment, in this case, hangs on the issue of our ability to fund programs, not just offer them. And so by virtue of that fact, as each individual university is currently going through retrenchment and others currently are not, trust me, every university is carefully watching and dialoguing on this issue. Either A, so that if they have to, they know how it has to be done and can learn from their brothers and sisters who are going through it today. But B, also never estimate the importance of retrenchment as to, again, how it relates to the issue of regular academic programming, review, for viability, sustainability, etc. Even though it is different by definition, it is similar at the same time. So what we're going through right now, as difficult as it is, and believe me, we are conscious of the impact that retrenchment has on students, who, by the way, must have their program taught out if, in fact, they are going to be impacted with a program closure. The students are not cut off at the knees. They are provided and must be provided the opportunity for the teach-out of their continued educational degree ambitions. Faculty, we're doing everything that we can as a system, and I'm using the word we, even though I just got here. One of the things that I am quickly recognizing is that retrenchment is a system issue every bit as much as it is an issue that impacts individual universities. And so we are working very hard to make certain that anyone who does happen to receive a letter is given every opportunity to maintain their employment somewhere in this system. It may not be at the same university, may not even be in the same program based on their qualifications, but at the end of the day, we're doing our best to make sure that that happens. We recognize that at the end of the day, the nasty word retrenchment actually has human faces associated with it. And these people every day who are going through this are trying in the most humane fashion possible for students and faculty to deal with this issue best we can. Will it be necessary in the future? It is just too early to say. I could give you an easy answer and say, I hope not. I could give you an easy answer and say, if we do the right things, probably not. I can't do that today. But we are going to continue to deal with what's in front of us right now in the best and most professional way possible. And that will, if necessary, I think, set a precedent for how we deal with it, should we have to deal with retrenchment going forward. You had
Deb
a
Erdley
question.
with the Pittsburgh
I'm sorry.
trip. When you talk about your
I'm sorry, can I hear you?
Deb Erdley with the Pittsburgh trip. When you talk about your strategic plan and how the individual universities need to fit into the system, are we talking about perhaps moving toward a system of magnet universities, centers of excellence being identified and branded in schools as opposed to 14 comprehensive universities?
You know, you already have that. And I'm not being glib. If you went around this table and if you asked these presidents what makes Kutztown the same as the other universities, but also what makes Kutztown unique to Kutztown, you will find at each of these universities some academic program, some academic programs, some special institutes or centers that make each of them one different from the other. And so your question should be then, what are you talking about? I'm talking about further teasing that out so that students in this state and their parents and the business community and the constituencies that we serve will have a clear understanding of what makes us similar, but also what makes us unique. And whether a student and their family choose a university because of that unique opportunity or whether it's just that they're aware of it is a very important function of what systems do, because it is both impossible, improbable, and unnecessary to have 14 universities that waddle, quack, and fly exactly the same. It's what makes us a system. It's not only what binds us in commonality, but what makes us each different one from the other, and then how we utilize those unique strengths to forge a system that is best serving our students and our Commonwealth going forward. So we're going to continue to tease that out at each institution do a better job of highlighting it and even expanding on it going forward.
Yes, you talked about the importance of quality education. How would you go about measuring that or evaluating that, the outcomes of the education at the PASSHE University?
Good question. And identify yourself, sir.
Oh, I'm Tom DeStefano, Clarion News.
Nice to meet you, Tom. That's a great question. And again, some of that is already being done. I have to tell you, while it is thought that I'm bringing some new ideas with me from Florida, I can tell you this: I've already stolen one from the PASSHE system. The Sunshine State, just about 3 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, it was at my last meeting, and one of the reasons that I asked both my board of governors here and my board of governors in Florida if I could have a translation period up to October 1st to finish off, put it in quotes, a few things that we've been working on. And one of those just happened, and it was the approval of the first performance-based funding system in the state university's history in Florida. And if you took the time to look at it, you would find a glaring similarity to the performance funding model that is currently in place for the PASSHE system. It's a system that identifies some key metrics, not all metrics, because you don't want to create something that's overly complicated and burdened with too many metrics. It's important to look at everything, but at the end of the day, you've got to begin to identify what are the most important things that you want to take away from each of our individual universities. How do their graduation rates look, their retention rates, their time to degree issues? What's the cost to a degree at each of our institutions? And they vary, by the way. There's a misguided belief that everybody costs exactly the same. Now, that's not necessarily true. There's different fee structures at our universities and the like. So what is the cost to a degree? What's the cost to that degree for the state? What's the cost to a degree for the student? And what's the cost to create that degree for the institution? 3 different numbers, oftentimes very different, as we found in the Sunshine State. And what results are we getting at the end of the day? So again, a commendation to the PASSHE system. They helped with some other states around the country lead the way in the development of a performance funding model that I left behind as getting ready to institute in the Sunshine State. And it will better serve not only the strategic planning process and the allocation process, but at the end of the day will give us clear markers on how people are moving the needle in a positive direction in some key indicators that are important not only to them, but are important to governors, members of the General Assembly, business community, parents who pay for a great deal of what we enjoy, and of course the faculty members and students themselves, and can also be helpful in making some important policy decisions for the future.
With the emphasis on costs associated with the degrees and the return on investment for various classes and that, it seems like a lot of the cuts as across the nation end up being the arts. And you had brought a thing about the community college and that. Do you ever see the system evolving into more involvement with trade school activities?
And answer that this way, Ron. And I hear all the rhetoric around the country, and I agree with a lot, that we need to do more in STEM education. And this system is. This system has increased over the past years their enrollment significantly in STEM education programs. The rhetoric that gets dangerous is the suggestion that we should be creating in our universities gigantic vocational technical centers. We should be doing more in STEM education, but it should not mean the dismantling of other programs that are not by definition considered to be STEM. Some of the great universities around the country boast both robust STEM education programs and some of the finest arts and fine arts programs that you've ever seen. The two are not mutually exclusive. I understand why some people get very nervous when people talk about STEM education, better aligning academic programs with the world of work, etc. I understand the nervousness that creates. But I also believe when you go back to these universities, what they're trying to do is create a balanced portfolio of academic programming. Those that are STEM related and important, especially in this day and time, and to contribute better to the economic vibrancy of Pennsylvania going forward, but also to the arts, to the fine arts, to the humanities, programs that in themselves help prepare students for the real world in which they're going to live and increase their educational opportunities. So I'll leave that one by simply saying STEM and other courses, humanities, fine arts programs, and others, are not mutually exclusive and should never be looked at that way on a quality university campus. And I think PASSHE has got a head start on that initiative at the same time. I'm going to allow these people to escape. They've got the rest of the day's activities here, but I'll end where I started by thanking you, President Whitney, for playing host to us. Thank my colleagues around the table for joining me here this morning. Since none of them fell out of their chairs, I'm going to assume that the things that we just talked about and I just talked about are okay with them. And hopefully I didn't surprise anybody this morning, but after having talked to them individually and collectively, there's nothing new here. These are the same things these good people are posted up against every day and are excited about talking going forward. So challenges aside, and there always are, let's get on with it. Let's make sure that the PASSHE system is recognized as the best state university system in America. Thanks for joining me, everybody.